in 2007 when my mother, when I found out it was right before, it was like August of 2006. We found out she was terminally ill with cancer. And I barely was even around. I saw her like 2 times because I was so messed up.
Yeah.
And I was there for her when she passed out. When she died, January 2nd, 2007. She died in my arms with my brother and sister, and I was high. And then that set off the trajectory of the next 5 months. The next 5 months of like total hell.
Let's be honest about recovery.
The rewards, the challenges.
Let's talk about our failures. We are flawed people, after all.
Let's challenge the stigmas that weigh us down.
Because while most of us are looked at, few of us are seen.
Let's talk about addiction.
And how Christ overcomes our weaknesses.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
We are loved.
We are because loved. We are loved.
My name is Johnny Carriere, and this is my story. I grew up chasing sports, success, and the American dream, and that led me down a deep, dark road of drugs, crime, and brokenness. In 2007, my mom's terminal cancer diagnosis led me down a spiral of brokenness. I then entered the home of grace. From there, I came in contact with the God of grace. Now, I'm married to an awesome wife, 4 kids, and I have the opportunity to serve as the executive director of the Refinery Mission, giving hope to men in Jesus, just like the hope that was given to me.
Welcome back to Jesus Loves Addicts. We're glad you're here. Today, we are privileged to have Mr. Johnny Carriere with us to tell his story of mercy and grace as God reached into the darkness to pull him out. And interestingly enough, he's about roughly 18 years in his recovery walk after a fast and furious 5 years of addiction. And so I don't know much more than that. So I'm looking forward to diving into his story as you guys hopefully are looking forward to hearing it, although I know a little bit more about your recovery, and I look forward to getting into the ministry work that you do now, right? That's also another part of our story that we hear echoed so many times, how many people give back. But as I always say, it doesn't start there. It starts in a different place. So you said something, Johnny, I want to ask you, because this may lead us right now. I love the way you phrase this. So we get to listen to you guys do your 30-second intros, and you put it this way. You said you spent much of your early life chasing sports, success, and the American dream, and that led to a life of drugs, crime, and brokenness.
Yep.
I love that contrast. Can you breathe life into that?
Yeah, I think, the world is selling us an advertisement at all times.
Amen.
Every store you walk into, everywhere you go, you have commercials, you have people, you have a consumeristic world that says, if you just buy me, then you'll be happy, you'll be fulfilled. If you just pursue this, then you'll have life. If you just have all these fancy things and nice house and great careers and, those things aren't bad in and of themselves. Those things aren't bad at all. However, when we take certain things and make them ultimate things, then that's where the problem is. And for me, my heart was bent towards those things. That was my goals in life. That was my pursuit. It was why I went to LSU. It was why I took the classes in high school to be able to go to LSU, because I had these great dreams and things that I was pursuing, because I bought into the lie that the world was selling to me and everyone else, was that I just needed to have all of these things
to be fulfilled
and to have a great life. And so for me, that was like hook, line, and sinker. And it's the fabric of my old story growing up. Before I was battling with the things of addiction, I was dealing with addiction, addicted to the things of the world, and so it just took on a whole new substance. It wasn't necessarily that, my sin became more darker and evil and things like that, but I was always bent against the Lord in those ways.
Well, I love the way you put that, right? Because we often title our addiction by the substance, right?
Yes.
A heroin addict, an alcoholic. Right. But the reality is we're just addicted to the things of the world, man. We're just carried away by the flesh.
Amen. Yep.
So I love that.
For sure.
So My guess is, since you mentioned sports in there, one of the things is you were finding your identity, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but probably in all the wrong things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, when it came to sports, it wasn't that those things are bad. Those things are great. They build character. They build teamwork. They're great things. But for me, they were identity. They were ultimate. Yeah. And that's just how I lived.
So how did that progression start? Like, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. I'm assuming you started to find a talent in Little League even, right? I mean,
Yeah. For me, it was, grew up in a good home. My parents, they were what you call good people. They went to work. They provided. We didn't go without. They did end up getting divorced in our life, which caused a lot of trouble. But for us, my dad was big into sports and played everything growing up. And so for us, it was like grow up playing baseball and football and soccer and basketball. And you never really stopped those things. You were just, when one season ended, you started the new one.
Pick up the next one.
And when you weren't doing that, you were in the yard doing those things with your brothers and playing in the neighborhoods and things like that. So
quick question on that one. Sorry. Because you mentioned your father was the same way. Was this always a thing of love and passion for you, or did you feel pressure to follow in Dad's footsteps?
No, I mean, we always, it was just something we loved to do.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I never felt that way.
Okay.
I mean, he was hard on us in those things, He pushed. He pushed us and like a good dad would do. He didn't.
Sure.
It wasn't abuse by any means.
You felt like that made you better.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I genuinely loved doing it. It wasn't something that I was enslaved to.
I think that's how it starts a lot that I've heard is, you probably showed skill at it. Well, then it's, hey, you're really good at this. Let's work on this and get better at it. Well, now it's opened the door for me for things. Yeah. I want this, this, and this. This is my avenue to get it.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I didn't grow up in a Christian home, I'm a first generation believer.
Interesting.
We didn't grow up going to church. We didn't grow up having an understanding of the Lord. And so those things were foreign to me.
Let me ask you about that, because appreciate you bringing that in so early. So being a non-Christian home leaves two options. It was either neutral, just wasn't mentioned. We didn't really hear anything about it. Or it could actually be like almost an anti-Christian home where it was spoken of badly. Which
it was very cultural, and there was no. It was no bad.
Just neutral,
it was just like I would have always said, I believed in God. It was a God of my own imagination. It wasn't a real God. It was a God of the scales. It was the God of. And we'd go to catechism. We were Catholic in religion, but we weren't actually practicing. And we weren't,
Gotcha.
I remember asking my mom, how can they say God makes all things, but he didn't make that Walmart right there. And there was no answers. I had no answers to the curious questions because there was no understanding in my household. And so I always believed in the God of the scales. Like I said, it was like, if I do enough good, it'll outweigh the bad. But that was like stuff I reserved for later in life when I got older and I could do more good things. And then now I can just kind of live how I want, and then I'll balance it out later and then get to heaven. But I still, even then, I didn't really believe in that God. It was literally just this weird cultural thing.
I think it becomes a point system.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And it's the difference between religion and relationship, right?
Yeah.
So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, in my house, there wasn't even religion, so it was relationship nor religion, pretty much. You know? It was we were the secular humanism. There wasn't really any type of anything. So
even the floating specter of Catholicism wasn't even really something. It was
because we went to catechism once a week during school, and we learned nothing because we were just those poor teachers. We were just rambunctious. They never actually taught us anything.
Did you go to a Catholic school?
For a short period of time.
Okay.
But, and even then we would take 1 hour religion, and it was a coach teaching. So there was no actual seriousness to what we were doing. There was no push. And I don't want to get ahead of things, but that's why whenever I truly encountered God's word, it was different.
Yeah.
So
you didn't know that there was anything different at all to even go by. Nothing was missing for you.
Not really. No. I did not know that there was truly, I guess, and I don't want to get ahead of myself because I can easily get to the point of, whenever I did come to the Lord, but I truly never thought that God really existed in my heart of hearts.
Yeah.
So, could exist.
The God of the scales, as you put it, that's an interesting way to do it. And it or say it, it gives me, again, some assumptions as to where this may be going, because I also was raised loosely in a Catholic home, right?
Yep.
The God of the scales can kind of keep the side that we want clean for a while, but it's not really done out of motivation of love for the Lord.
Right.
It's done more out of
Obligation and reward.
well, fear, but not the fear that brings wisdom.
Right.
The fear that, the boogeyman's hanging around there watching me, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of a sad way. So did this, you mentioned before we got started that for you, really, addiction doesn't start until you get into college, and we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But does this God of the scales is that what kind of keeps you from that, kind of keeping score for yourself?
I think so. I mean, I think there was a moral compass there a little bit. I wasn't like completely blown away heathen, just actively rebelling nonstop. I had a rebellious stage where, around 6th grade, and I was kind of rebelling and my grades were dropping, but I ended up, I passed, but barely. And I ended up getting, my parents decided to hold me back, and I went to a different school. That's when I went to the Catholic school for 3 years, for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And that's all it required for me to get back on track, where I was, doing good in school again and taking care of stuff. So, it's not like I was like acting crazy. I had a good home overall. Even when my parents divorced, we would go to my dad's, we'd go to my mom's, things were civil. We had a normal life. My dad never stopped providing.
How old were you when they divorced?
I think I was around 10 or 11 or so. So I was pretty young.
So in that 6th grade range.
Yeah, somewhere long enough to remember for sure. And it was painful. And it was definitely something that, it wasn't good for me and my brothers and sisters.
Did that fuel that rebellion?
I don't remember that being the exact indicator. And maybe in a roundabout way, but nothing that was like direct. Like I could say that absolutely was it.
And
I think it might have played a part in it, but I don't think it was the leading indicator of that.
Yeah.
Where do you fall? I'm sorry. Where do you fall in your siblings?
Oh, yes, I'm the middle. So it's my sister, and then me, and then my younger brother. Okay. And so we're all like 2 years apart.
Okay. So it's interesting to think about what rebellion as a 6th grader might look like.
Yeah, and for me, it probably looked different than most people. Like a lot of 6th graders, maybe. Like for me, it was just like not doing my homework, not doing my schoolwork, not taking care of the things, and like starting to kind of hang out with the kids that were, not exactly good for me. And so really the ultimate was my grades were dropping and I was having some behavioral issues, but it wasn't like horrible stuff.
Right. So you leave there, you go to Catholic school for a few years because they're going to straighten you out, right?
Yeah, yep. And, new faces, new thing,
Where does sports come into the...
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the same. I mean, I moved there in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, played all the different sports there, played baseball, basketball, soccer, football, and all of those things. And those were actually pretty good years. Like they never got in trouble, never had issues. I mean, fighting on the playground a good bit and some of that stuff. But other than that, it wasn't too crazy. So.
But already getting, again, I don't want to beat the sports part to death, but I think it's a big part of where our ego goes. Already getting some accolades at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, I was not all world by any means.
Right.
But it was... you live for it. It's kind of the fabric of your life. I could not have imagined like going through those years, even into high school and everything, that wasn't a part of my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't, it blew my mind that somebody would not want to do those things. So, it was definitely a big part of what we did.
Well, and as a young kid, right, you get the images of, MLB or NFL or whatever the professional version of what you're doing is. So that makes sense.
Was it just you that was sent to the other school?
Actually, my sister was already there, and my brother came as well. So we ended up all three over there at the new school.
Okay, I was asking because I was wondering if that was like a form of discipline just towards you, like, hey, you're acting out. This is what you're going to do.
And it ended up not really being a punishment. I actually was like hopeful about it because I knew deep down that I was definitely kind of veering off the wrong path, and it was like a new start. I got, I didn't have to live up to the expectations of being kind of the kid that was kind of cutting up or whatever. I got to have new people, a fresh start, and
they didn't see you get in trouble yet.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting then is that at some point you kind of get airdropped back into public school system, and what, right around 9th, 10th grade?
9th grade, yeah.
I mean, that's... Yeah. Not only is the high school already a transition, but going from private to public school, that's a big... What in the world was that like?
It was interesting because I got held back. So when I got to 9th grade, all of my classmates from the school before were all in 10th grade. And so I'm just coming into high school, and then all my friends are in 10th grade, but they were still kind of my friends. And so I had friends at both schools, and it was an interesting dynamic. So I got reunited with all the people that I used to hang out with.
Was that ever uncomfortable for you?
Never.
Like, did you? Oh, it was all okay. Good.
No, it was always fine, always comfortable, and made new friends along the way and things like that. So.
What about just kind of culturally the difference between a private school and public school? Like, this opens up a lot of good and bad. Right?
I mean, for me at the time, the Catholic school was more strict. Honestly, what it did is it sharpened me for when I got back into public school, and it was so easy. It was like really challenging going from public, but then I had an extra year of 6th grade, so I got to repeat the stuff I was doing. So it kind of allowed me to kind of catch up and get the swing of a new school and a harder school where you had more discipline and things like that. So by the time I went back to public school, it was like, this is nothing. Like, I don't have to do anything, and I don't have to bring homework home. And I'm still the top upper part of my class, and I don't even have to try. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, scholastically, I think we hear that all the time, but the social aspect of it is so different, right? Would that be true?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it was in a way, but in a lot of ways, it wasn't.
Okay, wow, that's interesting.
It's not like the Christian schools in our area are filled with a bunch of Christians.
Yeah.
I think that would be completely false. Most of our Christian schools are filled with unbelievers.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
So it's different, but it's not a whole lot different.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, fair enough. That's. Sorry, let me go back one question. So you said God was never a part of your upbringing.
Correct.
Was there anybody in your family were drugs and alcohol at all a presence?
My uncle, he lived next door. He lived with my grandmother, and he battled with drugs and addiction, and he ended up going to jail for like 3 years for possession, distribution of cocaine. But I just saw him from afar. It's not like I was using drugs with him or he was directly exposing us all the time. Right. But we knew he was on drugs and doing things, but it's not like it was like enticing or, to a point where it really affected us in those. If anything, it might have discouraged me even more from getting involved.
Yeah.
Because I saw kind of some of the pitfalls of kind of his life.
Sure.
And I would guess you heard your parents talking about it, and that kind of makes an impact.
For sure.
If we see our parents unsure or worried. What about substances, alcohol, your friends? Were you experimenting at all?
A little bit, very seldom in high school. Like we would drink a little bit, but it was really not, it wasn't a big deal or an issue. Not at all. It was rare, and it was just never something I really cared for.
Was it a big deal in your school and you just happened to not be in those crowds, or was it not even that big a deal in your school at this point?
I mean, you always had pockets of groups of people that would go and party. Every now and then I would end up at some of those parties, but it's not like it, I don't feel like it was just, it overtook the school. I mean, it was there, but I don't remember it being something that was just, I mean, there was a lot of kids at school that smoked weed and they would skip school and do all that. So that was more something I saw as impacted the students at my school more than anything. So.
Okay. So I failed to ask, what was your sport? Because again, it seems to play a big part of your early, even the striving for success, I'm assuming.
Growing up, it was baseball, football, soccer, basketball.
Oh.
And then in high school, it was soccer, football, soccer, and baseball predominantly.
So that, what carries over into, you said that's part of the reason you went to LSU. What were you pursuing there?
Yeah, so I tore my ACL my senior year in football, and that was the end of all of that. when I went to LSU, I had obviously an ACL reconstructive surgery, and I played intramural football at LSU, which obviously was just, hey, trying to relive some of the glory days. I ended up tearing my ACL again doing that. So I had 2 surgeries on the same knee, and that was pretty much the end of all of that. So whenever I missed my senior year of baseball, and I missed my senior year of soccer. And so my knee injury was kind of like the end of that idol. Not that I was going to play college sports or college ball. I just wasn't that good. But it did put an end to, it cut short what I hoped to at least finish in high school. And
that spark you had as a young man of that, certainly those desires.
Yep.
So when you said in your that beginning where you kind of chasing sports success and the American dream, I'd like to take a moment to recognize a major podcast sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by America's Thrift Stores, your go-to option for decluttering and giving back. If you have a closet bursting at the seams or a garage that's seen better days, we've got the perfect solution for you.
That's right. America's Thrift Stores makes it easy to clear out the clutter and make a positive impact in your community. Whether you're cleaning out your wardrobe, downsizing your living space, or just looking to give back, America's Thrift Stores has you covered.
And here's the best part. You've got options. Schedule a hassle-free home pickup, drop off your items at one of their convenient donation sites, or swing by an America's Thrift Store to donate in person. No matter which way you choose, you're making a difference.
Absolutely. Every donation you make to America's Thrift Stores directly benefits charities in your area, such as the Home of Grace and other fantastic organizations dedicated to helping those in need.
For example, donations made to America's Thrift Stores in southern Mississippi help the Home of Grace provide support and assistance to individuals facing drug and alcohol addiction. Your contributions make a real impact on their mission to provide freedom from addiction through Christ-centered recovery. So not only are you decluttering your life, but you're also helping build a stronger and more supportive community.
It's truly a double blessing. So what are you waiting for? Clean out that closet, clear out that garage, and make a positive difference in your community by donating to America's Thrift Stores.
Visit America's Thrift Stores online to schedule a home pickup, locate a donation site near you, or get directions to one of their store locations.
America's Thrift Stores, where giving back never goes out of style.
Is the sports and the success married together? Is that the success you were chasing until that injury?
I think somewhat. I think they're a little decoupled because I lived in reality. I wasn't a dreamer in the case of I knew I wasn't going to play pro ball. I knew I wasn't going to be a major leaguer, and I was probably pretty confident that I wasn't going to be a college ball player too. I don't remember having unrealistic expectations. I had guys on my team who were NFL Hall of Famers and won national titles and Super Bowls that were on my football team. I wasn't him. I was not him. Speaking of Devery Henderson, who played for LSU, won a national title, went to play for the Saints, won a Super Bowl, won an ESPY for the greatest play of the year. I was not him, but I grew up with him, and I knew that very, very much. So, the success was more like what the other pursuits were to then go and these pursuits were not wrong, but for me, they were ultimate. There was nothing wrong with a kid or someone wanting to go and do what God's called you to do, to go and work and provide and have a house and a car and have a career. Amen. That's God-given stuff, but for me, that was ultimate stuff.
So that was your hold all.
Yep.
Did you grieve at all? Or did it bother you that was cut short? You didn't make the decision. It's like, okay, well, this is clearly done. Did you just move to the next thing? What did that?
It wasn't a great moment for sure. I mean, it was a heartbreaking. I remember getting the news that it was over. And, I mean, at that time it was like, I knew and I accepted it. And for me, my mind just started to shift to, okay, I'm done. I don't go to practice anymore. I'm not doing all these things. I'm recovering. I'm going to therapy and these things for these injuries. And then my mind was shifting towards college. Towards the next steps for me.
Okay.
So did you end up going actually for academics?
Yeah, I went for school. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the only reason why I went.
So what were your other pursuits? Like when you say these other pursuits, where was the
Drive?
Yeah.
finish line for success now?
At that point, or for me, it was, I wanted to go for construction at LSU and then be a developer and, buy properties and develop them and build houses and things like that. So that was kind of, I worked in the lumber business somewhat in high school, where I did contractor sales and worked in the lumber yards. And so I kind of started to get I started to get like a heart for that industry, and it was something I knew. And so, I was looking at LSU for either that or wildlife and fisheries, and then they dissolved the wildlife and fisheries program right before. And so it was like a no-brainer. I'm going to go for construction management at LSU. And so that was where I was going to go and what I was going to do.
Okay. So interesting, right? I think my line of pursuit with sports is, well, he's grieving. This is what leads to the drugs and alcohol, but that's not. No. You're still pursuing a worldly definition of success.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're not grieving this thing.
Yeah.
So drug and alcohol into your life in college, where does that happen?
Particularly drugs. And alcohol was never really something that I dove into or really cared about. For me, I got to college and it was kind of much of the same. My first semester of college was great. Went to school, had a job, worked for a lumber company in Baton Rouge called State Lumber. And over there, I was just doing my thing. I was a college student. I didn't have a lot of friends. I really didn't know hardly anyone there. Most of my friends went to LSUE or UL Lafayette. And so very small amount of people from my high school came to LSU. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm here. I don't know a lot of people. And I just did my thing. I went to class. I went to work and hung out with some of the guys from work. They showed me around. They showed me the ropes. Big LSU sports fan. So, I probably became a bigger sports fan at that moment when I got to be there. And, look, if there was an LSU volleyball game, I was going to it. If it was LSU women's soccer, I was whatever, you name it. If it was sports and LSU, I was in no matter what. And I love that. That was part of it. The part that carried over wasn't me actually playing, but it was like enjoying that side of the college life. And so my first semester was great. My second semester was great. I can't remember if it was after my third semester or my fourth. I think it was after my third semester was when at my job site, there was a guy that worked in the back who sold weed. And I had met some other friends, and next thing you know, we're like, hey, he's like, man, can you buy some weed for us we're going to get high this weekend. I was like, okay. And I didn't really care, had whatever. Anyway, so what ended up being a one-time thing ended up turning into an every weekend thing. And then it became an everyday thing. And then before you know it, I wasn't coming to work. And then next thing you know, I'm like not going to school. And the spiral just kind of got out of control. So it didn't start by some tragedy or anything. It was literally just me just dabbling and finding friends and new people and just being exposed to other things. And then the snowball started. Yeah.
And that was all with marijuana?
Yeah, if that was the start. Yeah, okay. That was the start. And so we would just get high every weekend, and then we'd get high during the week. And, then I ended up dropping out of school because I just never go to school. I just wouldn't go. I would be high instead. And so at all this time, my parents had no idea. My mom or dad or anyone, they really had no, they didn't even know I would, I didn't even drop out of the university. I just quit going and took all Fs, and they didn't even know I wasn't a college student.
Wow.
They were clueless.
For how long?
Probably a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And during that time was when I started getting exposed to other things like pills and cocaine and things like that. And then I started dabbling in that world, but I wasn't like hardcore addict to those things at this point in my walk. I was still doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. I was, the sexual morality and all of the things involved in that. but I wasn't like a full blown, coke addict or taking pills and things like that. But it was enough to destroy my life at that moment and destroy those dreams to the point where I finally kind of had a breaking point where I was like, okay, I need to tell my parents.
How are you? Oh, so you confess to them. That's how they find out. You tell
pretty much.
How are you supporting yourself in this year? I mean, are you living off of college loans, or are you working?
Yeah, some. I had got some loans, but I was still working. I had switched from the lumber company, started working at a restaurant, which is bad news for somebody in addiction. And so that did not help because it was I was all around other college students, and everybody had access to drugs. The cooks all supplied us. It was just the stereotypical restaurant world, and everybody partied when you got off. And so I lived in that life until it kind of came to a head, and informed my parents kind of what was going on, and them and my brother they were like, "You're coming home," and I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna have to like." They're like, "No, you're coming home today," and I'm like, wait, I can't. And so I remember telling my boss at the restaurant, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm at a breaking point. I've just destroyed my life and all of the stuff that I was hoping for. And
in barely a year.
Yep. In a short amount of time, three semesters. And, and then I moved back home and went to stay with my grandmother.
Were you asking for help when you confessed to them?
Yeah. I mean, I was truly like, I was broken. Like I had ruined everything, like that American dream, that success, all those things that I had built up in my mind and what I was going to do was all just kind of thrown away. And at that moment I thought I was never coming back. I was done. This was it. And moved back home and stayed at my grandmother's house, which was right next door. She had a spare bedroom. And I stayed with her, and I got a job at St. Landry Lumber in Opelousas. And at this point, I'm doing contractor sales again and just starting to repiece my life together.
Clean at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. Clean. And, at this moment, the most damage that I've done in my life was, dropping out of college, getting all Fs, taking zeros for the semester and all that. The majority of the damage was in that. And in my pride and in my, the self-worth that I had just destroyed my opportunity. I blew my tops. I have my scholarships gone, like all this stuff's over. So at this moment.
What about, it doesn't sound like your parents, I mean, they stepped in immediately and they're like, hey, come on, you're coming home. We want to help. What is that? Was there any sort of process to that, or you came back and it was like, what checks and balances?
It was I was very independent. I bought my first car. I saved my money. In college, I never got a penny from my parents. I was very independent. So it kind of played out like that. Because I was so independent that they didn't have that over my head. They weren't funneling me money. I wasn't going to them for money. All of these things I had provided for myself and took care of myself and bought my vehicles and paid my insurances. And those are all things that I had it together as a high schooler in those regards. Like I really was bought into this dream of what I was going to do with my life. And so the transition back it was not much like, there wasn't much that needed to be done other than, hey, I'm coming back and I'm going to start working and then just, build my life back. And they were thankful and they were happy. And that's kind of how it looked. It was, it's kind of generic in how all that played out. Yeah. So.
But you're not done yet.
Yeah. No.
Right. So what happens?
Yeah, I had some really good times working and back in my community, clean, doing very well, and probably for about a year, maybe not quite that long, probably 6 months. And I remember we had a hurricane, and for some reason, when the world shut down, something changed. It was like, there's nothing going on. There's no people. The world has shut down. I don't remember what hurricane it was. And I remember being around some old friends and they were getting high and I was like, sure. And
why not?
That was it. From that day on, I was off to the races again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this time things got a whole lot worse because my roommate, who was living with me at this time, he told me that there was a lot of people that liked pills. And I was a little oblivious to my hometown and like the people who were, on dope and they were using. But he said that, look, everybody over here wants pain pills. And this was like the early stages of the opioid crisis. There was no... it was probably the beginnings of that world.
This sounds like a business proposal. This was a business
where the proposal. Money is. And for me, being resourceful and being a kind of a tech guy, what did I do? I got online and I started looking. It was the height of the online pharmacy world. And so you could get prescription narcotic pain pills off the internet. There were sites everywhere. And all you had to do was just type a little situation. I used my knee from my surgeries. Wow. I didn't even have to turn in an MRI. I basically would go on these forums, put my information, and they would they would not only give me the prescription, but they would send me the pills.
Isn't that crazy?
And so I got in the first bottle of pills. It was like 90 pills, and they were gone the first hour, like immediately.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. So then I found a bunch of other sites. So what I started doing was I started going to all these online pharmacies, and I would use my name and my information at each of them, and they would all send me pills. Then I started using my brother's name and then my grandma's name. And so I couldn't keep up with the demand. So I was having to use all these other people. And then I had packages just coming in, and it was just pain pills coming in.
What's crazy to me is you literally had zero understanding or experience in drug, and you jumped.
Yeah, I jumped in.
You said off to the races. I don't think I was expecting you to jump into ordering.
And for me, it wasn't really like, I wasn't crazy addicted. Like I was addicted to weed. We got high every day once I started again. But I wasn't on hard stuff, but I entered into a world a little, but not a lot. Okay. I mean, it wasn't like an everyday thing. Was it more the money
and the business part of it?
Yeah. Much more.
Which is an addiction of itself, right?
It was, and my nickname became J Money. That was my nickname because I was dealing, and I became like the guy in our whole community that did that. So, but the problem is I could not get enough to meet the needs of the people in our community. And so then I started finding alternate solutions. And then over time, those online pharmacies were getting shut down and busted. Sure. And they finally kind of did away with them. But at this time, I had found connections locally and then in Texas where I was able to get I actually wasn't even going to I would go to a doctor in New Orleans, a pain doctor. He would give me a script. I would go every month. He would give me a script of pain pills, Xanax, and then and like muscle relaxers. And then what he would do is I would have the bottles. So I could easily, when I would get my pills off the streets, I could easily put them in these bottles and then go and ride around to sell and never have a worry in the world because I had a prescription for them. And so I'd keep the stash separate, and I would ride around with what I needed, do my sales that way. So, I operated it like a true business, and I wasn't wrapped up in using much at that time. It was a different mindset at that moment.
What's interesting is you're in some ways experiencing your then identification or your then definition of success.
Without a doubt.
The money.
Yep.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Yep.
Boy, what a sad kind of statement on both sides of that ledger, right? Yeah. I mean, that you're lost in a concept of success that really leaves you empty in the end, and that there's so many people out there seeking just this horrible
and it still doesn't sound like you thought anything was missing.
Yeah, and at this time it was, and I really felt bulletproof in a lot of ways because of how I was operating. I knew that when I would take trips to Texas, that was my risk. But after that, I had things in place where if I was going to get pulled over, they couldn't do anything to me. And I really felt bulletproof. So I didn't let my mind think or travel about getting caught a whole lot. And so it allowed me to keep on going. And through all that time, I had some very close calls, but never did I stress about it too much or worry until I was at a bar in town, And one of the officers for Opelousas Police Department, who knew my family, pulled me off aside, and he said, "We know what you're doing. We know what you're about, and you're going to get caught." And he was giving me the fair warning, and it absolutely shocked me. I was blown away. Like, I didn't have any clue. It was off my radar, and I was scared to death. I mean,
did it change anything?
It scared me. Yeah.
I think if it was so far off your radar, it's not saying that you thought you were smarter, but you did.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing anything wrong. I have all of these systems. I am good.
Yeah.
Until you're not.
And then you're also like, you have power. Like everybody, you like these people, they driving from Baton Rouge to come meet you every day to pick up their fix. Like, you got you're the man.
Yeah.
It's the craziest, most stupid thing ever. But that's kind of how you felt in those moments. You had the power, you had the success.
It mattered.
You were at you were the guy to go to for these types of drugs in our community. And, but that moment in that bar with that cop, it changed everything for me. I was scared. I was terrified, and I quit. And I said, "All right, this is my breaking point. I'm putting this down." Cleaned house, got rid of everything, and I said, "I'm going to move back to Baton Rouge. I'm going back to college." And I never thought I would ever go back in my mind, but I did. I went back and started. Can't remember exactly the semester, but I moved back and enrolled back in college. They thankfully let me back in, even though I had dropped out. My GPA had went down tremendously. And my first semester back in school, I applied myself for the first time in my life, and I made a 4.0 at LSU. Yeah. Never once have I put my effort into school that I did that time. Yeah. It was awesome. I was like on top of the world. Things were like back on track. My life was back. It was like, okay, I can do this again. And the next semester I made a 2.0, and then the next semester after that I was a college dropout again.
The 2.0, was that intermixed with using again?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So you got there and then you started using
the cycle, you know. I got there and it was good for, a semester. Yeah. And then it was the same cycle. And not only was the cycle repeating, but the cycle of my drug dealing repeated, because then I realized, hey, all of these college students, these people in Baton Rouge like pills too.
They have a want,
And so it just cranked everything back up. And so everything got taken to a whole nother level over there in Baton Rouge. I was away from the Opelousas, that whole small city. I was away from the worry.
Knows what you're doing.
None of all that's gone. The cops are over there. Like over here, I'm nobody. They don't know nothing. And so really it just kickstarted a whole new thing. So I'm a 2-time college dropout. And now I'm a drug dealer again by profession. So.
It's so interesting. There's a snapshot here, right, of the insanity of drug use and that lifestyle, right? Because it's not you've been involved in it. It's ended. It scared you to death, right? Some of the outcomes of it.
Yep.
You come out of it twice, right? Yep. Twice. The first time you go home, you start to find some success working in. Now you come out of it again, you find success at school.
Yep.
But the insanity of this is it keeps bringing us back, and we don't yet learn that it's always going to end the same way. That definition, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
And that it's going to keep getting worse.
Yeah. And it did.
Yeah.
It got worse.
How long did it last this time?
Yeah. So once I started using it this time, not only was I dealing, but I was using. And
now you're using the hard stuff.
Yeah, and I wasn't an opiate guy, thankfully. But when I started up again in Baton Rouge, I was selling opiates, and I was selling Xanax and other things. And so I really liked the Xanax. And so I got hooked on the Xanax really bad. And that was that just opened up the door for like chaos, pure chaos, because it wasn't nothing for me to just drop everything and drive to Texas and just drive here and there. And I'd go months without having a clue what I was doing or whatever. I was arrested twice during this time. never with anything substantial. It was always small quantities. I got
little possession charges.
I got a possession of marijuana in Rain, Louisiana, and then I've got a DUI in downtown Houston from falling asleep in my truck at the red light. And, and those things didn't stop me from doing what I was doing.
Did your family know that you had gotten arrested?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. My brother, one of my drug friends got me out the first time. My brother was living in Houston. He got me out the second time over there. And, once again, like I was very independent. And so my parents had no leverage over me other than, you're my kid, we love you. But they had no leverage to try to take things away. We're going to take away your car. We're going to take away your credit card. We're going to take away your money. And so they had no leverage over me because I was very independent.
Did they try to talk to you at all? Like, what are you doing? I mean, by this point, they can't ignore it.
They were dead, but I also kept my distance too. I wasn't like hanging around my hometown. And when I would go, it would be short
really
snippets.
Quick.
And if there was any of that stuff, I would just leave. I would leave. I wasn't going to sit there and subject myself to somebody.
So they didn't even want to because they were going to take what they could get with you there. At least I can see you.
And if they would, it wouldn't be a long. Like I would just leave, and then I would go for months on end without seeing them or answering calls or things like that.
Well, and they never saw the true nature of it, right? They were once removed.
Correct.
So while they're concerned, they don't really know.
They have no clue of what I was really doing. Yeah, for sure. They never really got a glimpse of what I was really doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so every day I would wake up and pop a bunch of Xanax and do cocaine and do my thing. And that's the life that I became and the person I became. And for months on end, for years on end, and that was my new identity. And
boy, you're really taxing yourself physically too, because those two that you mentioned, right? Your Xanax bringing you down, cocaine bringing you up, just physiologically, right? And just really paying a price. What's happening to you physically? Are you starting to? Yeah,
this time, I mean, I'm just like, I sent some pictures over to you guys. I don't know if y'all saw those yet.
I did not.
I looked terrible. And it was around this time when, in 2007, when my mother, when I found out it was right before, it was like August of 2006, we found out she was terminally ill with cancer. And I barely was even around. I saw her like 2 times because I was so messed up.
Yeah.
And I was there for her when she passed out. When she died, January 2nd, 2007. She died in my arms with my brother and sister, and I was high. And then that set off the trajectory of the next 5 months. The next 5 months of like total hell, total chaos, robbing people at gunpoint, being robbed at gunpoint, guns on my temple, doing the same, robbing drug dealers. Like my mom's death was not the cause of what I was doing. But what it did was it took me to a point that I was already, coming down fast. It just went from
you
like
just stopped caring,
deeper in the addiction to cover the pain, the insecurities, everything you can imagine. Like I had no hope. I was, a day in my life, I lived in Baton Rouge. I don't even know how I still had a home, but I lived in a family home. There was no electricity, and a nice home too. It's not like it was my grandfather's home. No electricity. There was no running water because it wouldn't pay the bill. The only thing that worked was the gas, and I think it would only work because they were too lazy to come turn it off. And the gas worked, and so I had a gas stove. So I would have to take an aluminum tub, didn't have running water, so I had to fill it up at a neighbor or a business that had a faucet on the outside. I'd fill it up and bring it and heat the water up to take a bath in the tub.
Before we go any further, let's take a minute to address the man or the woman listening to today's episode and wishing for a better life. Or maybe addiction has completely overtaken a family member or a friend.
You are not alone. As you may know, the Jesus Loves Addicts podcast is produced by the Home of Grace, a Christ-centered addiction recovery program in South Mississippi with over 60 years of experience.
The Home of Grace has residential programs ranging from 30 days to 12 months. With 2 separate campuses for men and women, they are fully staffed with caring individuals who want nothing more than to guide you to a life of recovery.
Services include individual and group counseling, marriage and family counseling, classes, workshops, GED, and workforce training, all grounded in biblical principles.
And because of donations from the community, the cost of the program is incredibly affordable.
Thousands of alumni from across the country can tell you there is no other program in the world quite like the Home of Grace.
If you want to start a new path to recovery, don't wait. Speak with an admission specialist today. Visit homeofgrace.org or call 833-55-GRACE to talk with someone.
That's 833-55-GRACE. Call the Home of Grace today. Let me ask you a question about that, because it's also a sign of how this thing just pulls us down. So the first time you're selling, you're not using it a lot.
Correct.
There's this kind of false sense of success.
Yep.
I'm building my bank
Yep.
account. This time around, I'm only guessing.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm right. The money you're making, is it going in now to what you're using?
Yeah.
There's not.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
just feeding
Yeah.
your own addiction
Absolutely.
at this point. There's no.
Yep,
There's no
exactly.
secondary gain.
It got worse, and it got worse in every single metric. It wasn't just like I'm making a lot of money. It's literally, I am wrapped up in a life where I'm selling and I'm using, and it's the, use your imagination of the depravity and the brokenness. And so during this time, I mean, I'm like seeing demons. They're like, I'm in my house with a bow and arrow shooting at, shadow people. And just chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos on every level in my house that I had brought upon my life. And
I think also that when you lose a parent and you're in addiction, it's not just the hurt, it's the guilt and shame that we don't want to catch up to us.
Yep.
And it's, I really don't care. As long as I don't have to feel that.
Yep.
I don't care.
Yep. Yeah, and look, there was never any hope that I could ever, for me, I remember like, I'll never be able to be clean enough. And it wasn't even to be clean. I'll never be able to provide for a wife. I'll never be able to take care of a kid. I'll never have enough time to overcome the hole I've dug myself in. I dug a hole for myself on every front. 2-time college dropout, student loans, destroyed my credit, got credit cards, didn't pay them, like everything that comes with this life.
Yeah.
I dug myself in a hole that I would wake up every day and there was like, I could not see a path out of this ever. It was in front of me. Yeah. And I thought that it could never be done. Yeah. And I truly believed I was deep in slavery.
Yeah. Oh man.
And,
you paint that picture well.
Yeah. And then this is pretty much where things come to a head.
Just something on what you just said. It's so insidious, right? It possesses our present, but it also possesses your concept of the future, right? You had lost. It's
no
not
future.
like I can get out of this.
Never.
I did begin to see it as worthless, hopeless. You can just see where it pulls you.
It was as empty as you can, and you can see the mind around someone who's ends it all.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing for me. I have no idea why. I had nothing to live for in my mind, but I would just do it again every day.
Did you become suicidal?
I think there were moments, but I don't think there was ever a point where I was like, I'm about to end it.
Okay.
I was living as hopeless as you could be without like saying I'm about to end it.
Yeah.
My existence was hopelessness. That was my whole world.
Did you expect it was going to come to an end? Like almost, I don't even have to act on it.
Yeah.
If there's no hope in something, then at some point it's going to end hopeless.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And during this time, I had 2 major seizures.
Coming off Xanax?
Yep. Ended up in the hospital both times. Had no idea where I was at or that it even happened. And so, eventually it was going to kill me. And,
and you were how old at this time?
Yeah, so I was 20. I think by this time I was around 26 or so, in that range. And then everything kind of came to a head. I was at my house in Baton Rouge, and I was depressed. It was dark. I was just had some battles with the whole like demon kind of craze thing that I had experienced.
hallucinations, delusions.
Yeah, I mean, I would even argue that it wasn't, but I think that's a whole nother topic, that we can go into. I would argue that they were very much real, but
I hear that.
And so it brought me to an absolute head. And so at the same time, my brother is also going through all of this addiction stuff, 2 years younger than me. And, we got high together a lot, but my brother, he ended up coming to the Home of Grace. And his last week at the Home of Grace, the second to last week, he calls and he's like, "You really need to come here." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know how I don't know what to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't even know. I just know that I'm hopeless." And so,
sounds like you're also open to the suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, I was rock bottom. I was at the end. I was very much at the end of me of my life. At this point, I didn't care.
Like at a point where it sounds really great, but that's not for me. I don't see an avenue to get there.
I knew my cousin was one of the first people from our area to come here.
Okay.
Lauren Carriere, he came in like 2000. And then my roommate came, the one that taught me that people like pills, came here in 2003. He left in the middle of the night, didn't even know where he was at when I woke up the next day. He said, "I couldn't tell you because you'd have talked me out of it." And he came here in 2003, and then I followed along later in 2007. So whenever my brother called, I was like, okay. And so they lined it up, and I was able to go get the necessary things that I needed. And I said, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm coming. The joke was to all our friends when they were like struggling, we were like, "We're going to drop you off in Vancleave." Like that was the joke. We would mock them. Like that's where all the losers go. They quit. They go to Vancleave.
They go to treatment.
So we drop them off. We'd go to Florida. Hey, we're going to drop you off in Vancleave because you quit. You quitting. And so for me, it was I want to be dropped off in Vancleave. And I didn't come to the Home of Grace for anything other than to get off of drugs. I didn't believe that God could
restore you.
I had no idea of the Bible, of anything spiritual in that regard, of that stuff was not real, no matter what I said I believed in. To me, that wasn't real. And when I got here...
Can I pause you on that second? Just because I get that, right? We're not yet willing, but here you've had, I love the way you talked about these, I called them hallucinations. You said I'd argue that they weren't. Yeah. So you're having these encounters with these demon kind of figures. Is there in your, you didn't use this word, I'm assuming that had to be a fearful experience.
Oh, it was I'm getting goosebumps. Like,
was there a concept of God then? Were you like, no, it's just hey, this is darkness. There's still no connection.
It was all dark.
This is the upper tier of darkness.
Yeah, but it's not the opposite of God. There's still no concept of there
was none, and because I didn't believe.
Yeah,
I suffered with unbelief. I had no faith.
Okay,
and
you had never been exposed to it at all.
No, I had a guy at work that at St. Landry Lumber in Opelousas, he would start to talk about it, and I would just laugh, and it was mock him, and there was always a group of people that we mocked. My cousin one time, he told me he had his Bible, and he said, "That's my sword," and of course we mocked him, and so it was all a joke.
Yeah.
And those people were just the holy rollers, and they were just silly and stupid, and ultimately I was the fool.
I was fixing to say, I've been in a situation where I almost felt sorry for him, and it's like, no, definitely feel sorry for me. I was lost.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And when I showed up at the Home of Grace, I had a great attitude. I remember I got high the whole way over there. Every step of the way, I remember pulling down the road, and I remember getting out and saying, "This is it. Like, I'm done. I'm literally, this life I'm done with. It's over." And I remember saying that and truly meaning it in my heart, and, got involved. And I was probably at the Home of Grace for a week, and they had a pastor that was preaching, and I was open to everything that I was seeing and hearing. It was like literally like a foreign language to me. Everything was, everybody's nice. They were like friendly, and they were like, "What's up, man?" And just kind, giving me their shirt off their back, and I felt the love from the start. And then I was coming out of the fog. But I remember being in the chapel, and I remember this guy preaching, and it was just rocking my world like no other. And chapel ended, everybody left, and I sat in that chapel crying. I cried for hours and hours by myself. And I knew in that moment that all of my past, present, and future sins were gone. I knew in that moment that I was forgiven. I knew everything that I was looking for in the world, in the things of the world, in success, in sports, in life, in drugs, in sexual morality, and lust, women, and everything, fill in the blank, everything that I was looking for, I found in Christ that night in that chapel. And I've never been the same.
Do you remember, and I almost hesitate to ask this because in some ways it doesn't matter, but as a part of your story, it may. I'm just curious, do you remember what the message was that night?
Yeah, it was the only sin that it was about the blasphemy of God, about everything's forgivable except if you blaspheme God or something. I have it in my journal. I would have to go back and look. I'll have to go revisit that and see. But that's something, the gist of what it was. And I don't know why, but that just, it rocked me, and God, it did his thing, man. I remember the grass was greener. The birds, I heard the birds. I saw the butterflies. Everything was illuminated in my life.
That's wild.
From that moment. And I spent every waking hour over here reading my Bible, doing Bible studies, trying to lead, learn, memorize scripture. And it was 3 months it was the best 3 months of my life where I got to just enjoy God and his word, knowing that I was completely different and I was alive, and with more hope than you could ever imagine.
You know what I hope you got from that message? And maybe this was it. Yeah. Maybe this will, and I say it because anybody out there listening, I hope they hear this too. I'm just wondering, you come in so broken, so hopeless, so purposeless, so all of the lesses.
Yep.
And then you hear this message that there's only one thing that can't be forgiven, and that's if you deny Christ, right? Because then you're denying the very thing that can forgive you of everything. Amen. I wonder if in your heart of hearts in that moment you realized, what? I can be forgiven. Yeah. I wonder if in that moment it became a possibility for you.
I can tell you it was powerful and spiritual. I mean, it was I knew I came here for something else, and I got something that I didn't come for in that moment. And man, was it so much better. It was so much better, much better. I came here to get sober. I came to get, freed from the addiction.
Sometimes
get
just
off the
a break
drugs.
is all I think I'm going to get.
Yeah. And what I got was,
freedom.
I got freedom. Not only was I like the drugs was like just a smidge of the stuff that I needed to deal with. I got true freedom on every aspect of my life, and I got a heart change, and I got, it was like, before I was using the F word to describe the F word. My heart was dirty, rotten to the core. And the Lord just slowly chipped that away and changed me and transformed me and showed me a new way and gave me new hope. And that was all she wrote over here.
That is awesome.
Was that your first treatment?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. Right, because I think so many times there's this expectation that you can't be one and done, but you can. Yeah, man, we can't limit that. It's okay if not. There's always every breath you have is another opportunity.
Can be done.
But absolutely, you can be one and done. Yeah. The issue is readiness. Yeah, and God broke you to the point that you were ready. Right.
Yeah. Well, you said it in the beginning. You went all the way down through there to extremes in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, for sure.
You were a ticking time bomb before you even knew it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, left here and as eager and as on fire and just, fired up from that. And, I didn't know that there were like Christians living back home. There's like true believers that people of the faith. It was so foreign to me at home because it was never anything. So when I got back, when I got back and I'm like talking to people, I'm like, wait, you know all that too? And like, you know all this? And like, I'm in my church and I'm serving, and like, it was the craziest thing. I felt
the heart of a child.
Home, you know, I had Christian brothers and sisters everywhere. And that was the Lord starting my new journey over the next couple years of preparing me to do full-time ministry work. And that's what he did for 2 years straight after I left here, after I left the home of grace.
I just keep thinking, you said you described things very very well. And just that darkness and hopelessness, and it's completely on the other, and I can do this. None of it was the goals that drove you most of your life. You got healing that you weren't looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely, in those moments, I knew that I didn't care about all those other things, those pursuits that I had. Yeah. None of that stuff mattered. I just want to help people. I just want to serve people, love people. I had a story to tell. I had a message to share, and that's what flowed out of me at this point.
Well, that change tells the story, right? I mean, you know, if you can't see the handiwork of God in your life in that moment, then I don't know what's going to show you that. That's because that, like you said, that was truly a changed heart. Johnny, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you, right? You got into full-time ministry and it did lead you somewhere, led you somewhere that's still active today and really impactful. Yeah. Can you talk about that? Because you're one of these guys that is giving back.
Yeah. So the 2 years out of rehab, 2 years as a Christian was really like training ground. I mean, I was working in the oil field, doing work, loved my job, loved the people I worked with, involved in my church, doing Bible studies. Around a year into that, my cousin, they were starting up a ministry called Hope for Opelousas, and a ministry to the inner city of Opelousas, tutoring kids, going on high adventure backpacking. And so I got to be a part of that start when that was getting off the ground, volunteering and serving, and being with my cousin as he was getting that off the ground, you know, active in that type of work. And so I was kind of getting my feet wet in ministry in that regard while working full time and doing all those things. And you know what? God is good. I got to get back into enjoying sports and LSU, but doing it in a normal capacity, in a not a insane kind of world, but I was living a fulfilled life, a truly fulfilled life, volunteering and helping and serving, being a part of all of those things. Well, around 2 years after I was out of here doing that, I got a call, and they were telling me that they were asking me if I was interested in taking over, you know, this ministry, this homeless ministry called the Lighthouse Mission. And I was like, well, there's a director there. They said, yeah, but things aren't going great. So we don't know what the future holds. And I said, well, you know, I have very much a desire to do full-time ministry. That would be amazing. And so I'd be interested if something ever happens. Went about my business, continued to do what I've done, not even on my mind. And then I don't know the timeline of that, but I did get the call, and they were like, hey, we fired the director, and we want to see if you're interested in applying and going on an interview. And I was like, absolutely. And so I went on an interview with some of the board, and then I went on another interview with the board, and they didn't interview anyone else, and they hired me as the executive director. Knew nothing about nonprofit work, knew nothing about anything in that regard. I was a service manager at an oil field valve company. And so I laughed because
I guess this isn't a pay increase.
This is a pay decrease.
Right.
Yes, this is a decrease.
Absolutely.
And I did not care at all.
Amen.
Didn't care.
Amen.
And
a different definition of success.
Different, very much so. But because I have a lot of the same board, and they'll say, I can't believe we've come this far. And I say, yeah, I can't believe y'all hired me. Y'all are crazy. I was like young with no experience, and y'all took a big risk, and it's just fun. But jumped into that, and then really had no idea what I was doing. but I knew I showed up every day. I tell people all the time, they look around and they're like, wow, this is amazing. You guys are serving 120 people on your campus and you got all this stuff and these buildings and all. And I say, look, I'm no special leader. I had none of this planned. I had no foresight, no goals, ambitions to do this. I showed up every day, and by the grace of God, he put people and things in our life that have brought us to where we are. Even the people that caused me the most problems, the employees that gave me the most trouble, played a pivotal role, and we wouldn't be here without them.
Right.
And I can look back and see the providence of the Lord and how those very people made connections with people that changed the game in what we do.
Yeah.
And it's been, let's see, I started there in March of 2009. Since then we've rebranded to the Refinery Mission.
I was going to ask you how that.
Yeah. So didn't love the name, so I wanted to rebrand, and we rebranded, and we've been the Refinery Mission for probably almost a decade now, and been doing that since then. And hopefully the Lord has a whole lot more years, but the gist of what we do, a lot of what we do is very similar to what the Home of Grace does. It's just got a different flavor to our program. But I've been inspired by my life that I got to experience, what transformed me, and kind of the men who poured into me and loved me. We've developed our programs around many of those things: morning devotions, chapel services, mentoring, class time, Bible studies, all of the things that were just so powerful for me to form me as an early believer. We do very well for the men that are in our program, and they
discipleship.
Yeah. So our guys are coming from jails, prisons, rehabs, hospitals, behavioral health clinics, and off the streets. So from prison reentry to homelessness and everything in between. But we're not a rehab. We don't sell ourselves as a rehab. What we're trying to do, our guys aren't pulled out of the world so they can go and really focus. They're still in the world. They're still active. They're getting employment. We're helping them with jobs. We're helping them pick up the pieces, the driver's license, birth certificates, ID cards, getting their tickets off their things, saving money for vehicles. And through all of that, still teaching the Bible, having them going through our classes and all of these various things. So it's a different little flavor of what we're doing. But much of what we do has been through the inspiration of what I experienced. And so, if I wouldn't have been through everything I went through, I wouldn't have got hired. They even told me. They said specifically, they say, well, you're dealing with there's a bunch of people here, and all they're going to do is get over you, and you're too nice, and they're going to this. And I said, let me tell you, I was that guy. I was the trickster. I got over. I know all the tricks, and that sold them. And so my past,
probably very much what works for you today. It's I do see you. I do. When someone looks at you and they're like, you don't understand. Well, actually, give me 5 minutes. I bet you I do.
It's two faceted. One, it's yes, I've lived it and I know, so I have hope for you. Yeah. But I've lived it and I know, and you're not going to get over me by doing that. And so there's going to be accountability. And so God knows what He's doing. Yeah, and He brought me into a calling that I didn't choose. That He chose for me. Not what I wanted. Not the life I ever would have dreamed of or wanted, but a life that in a career and a vocation and a calling that I could have never picked.
As you said, his way is always better.
Yeah, right? He killed it. So, yeah.
And there's some testimony in the fact that the people didn't think you'd understand. Yeah. That's how changed you were. Yeah. That they couldn't imagine a past like that in your life.
Well, and let's look at my wife.
I was fixing to ask. Now you're married. You have children.
My wife, I was probably running the refinery a couple years when I met my wife, and she never knew a day that she didn't know the Lord. She grew up in church. She's never, she barely got a speeding ticket. I don't know if she ever got a speeding. And she was a beautiful Christian woman who never went through any of the stuff I went through, who would have never gave me the time a second, much less anything. And, God transformed me so much that He gave me a wonderful wife that I didn't deserve. A wife that, just was the definition of a pure woman. And, so we have a peaceful household, 4 kids from 14 down to 7. And, it's one of the biggest joys and riches to be a parent and to raise these kids up in the fear and admonition of the Lord, and see them grow in their faith and their trust in the Lord, and having a Christian household where we do family worship every day at the table. And it's very, very rich, a rich life, not a worldly successful life, but a rich life that the Lord's given me. Amen. Undeserved, but so much
Amen.
Better than the stuff I wanted. So much better.
I love that.
I
love
do
that.
too.
Yeah. Woo, Johnny, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Your story. Wow, it's inspirational. And for anybody out there listening, the thought that comes to my mind is, Jesus is not a fairy tale. We serve a very real God, and there is a very real enemy. Mm-hmm. And the tool in the enemy's toolbox is his greatest tool, and it probably is the umbrella to all his tools, is deception. Mm-hmm. Deception, right? So here we hear this man's story about all of what he thought success was and all of what he pursued, and got a taste of that, right? Mm-hmm. There were, at some point he had a huge bank account, I'm assuming, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't tell us how much was in there, but there was lots of money coming in. Mm-hmm. Guys, the deception is that will always leave you empty. Always. It will always leave you empty.
Leads you death.
Yeah. And I just want to say there's a verse that says it best. It says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Guys, if you're in the throes of addiction, if you're in the throes of pursuing all the wrong definitions of success, that will lead to the loss of your soul, and it won't profit you a thing to gain anything that it temporarily gives you, right? The counter to that is to seek first the things of God, seek first the kingdom of God, and all the things that you need will be added to you. Guys, you've heard that story time and time and time and time again here on the show, and we've heard it again through Johnny's story. My prayer for you guys is that you will grasp, look, I know there are moments of clarity, that you will hang on tightly to that next moment of clarity and pursue the things of God. Those are what those moments of clarity are offering you, an opportunity to grab that lifeline for all it's worth and don't let go. He's waiting for you with open arms. Open arms. There's not an ounce of shame that he's wanting to bestow on you. Only welcome home, son. Welcome home, daughter.
And he'll take the shame.
Amen. Amen. Guys, we love you. More importantly, Jesus loves you. And we will see you next time on Jesus Loves Addicts.